Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining May's Lunch and Learn. We are going to be talking about stigma of parenting children with mental health needs this month. This month is also Mental Health Awareness Month, and we've been focusing a lot on what stigma is, ways to combat stigma, and how we're moving forward. I am Nicole Anjum. I am the program, and again, I forget my job title. I am Virginia Family Network Program Assistant, and I am joined by four lovely ladies and parents of children. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves and how they've come to be with NAMI and a little bit about their families too. Whoever is ready to go first.
I can go first if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So hi everyone, my name is Patrice Beard. I have a daughter who is now almost 27. Oh my gosh. She has significant mental health, multiple mental health conditions. She was first diagnosed when I think she was about 10. And so we have gone through this journey of school, of everyday life, friendship, adulthood, transition. She's married. She got married in October. I was working at the Partnership for People with Disabilities, and I was really struggling with my daughter when she was in high school. And somebody at work came up to me and said, well, have you heard of NAMI? And I was like, NAMI? What's NAMI? So I took a basics class, and it was amazing. And then I took a family to family class. And then from there, I started teaching and just on fire with helping people and helping other families. I still work for the partnership, and I'm the mental health specialist there. And when families call in with mental health concerns and needing resources and things like that, I still work for the partnership, and I'm the mental health. That's me.
Thank you, Patrice.
I'm Cindy Maurice. I live in Shenandoah Valley of Virginia, and got to meet Nicole and some awesome, wonderful ladies through the advanced parent leadership training that I took a few years ago, and have just watched as Nicole has pushed me way out of my comfort zone. But it's been it really has been. I have a daughter who is 33, married to an awesome, wonderful English gentleman, and they have a daughter, Hazel. I have a 27-year-old daughter and almost 18-year-old son, who are gifts from the state of Virginia that we adopted through foster care. And each one of them has mental health issues. My oldest daughter is the overachiever. My younger two, my younger daughter is kind of middle of the road. And then my younger son, who is still at home with me, is proving to be a good challenge, but we make it through every day. So I'm here to help support. Professionally, I am also a school nurse. I work for 2 different school divisions in our area. And so I work with kids with mental health needs professionally, and then come home and deal with them personally. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Cindy.
I'll go next. I am Portia Chan. I'm actually Nicole Anjum's colleague at NAMI, Virginia. So thank you, Nicole, for including me today. But I came across NAMI through the NAMI Central Virginia. I received my peer recovery specialist training there with Jim Cohaney. And then during that same summer of 2019, I started working at NAMI Virginia as the development manager part-time. I have my own lived experience with mental health, myself personally, but also as a caregiver to my father. And my daughter, who is now almost 10, has some severe social anxiety around preschool and early elementary school. I'm here because I know that help and hope are available for everyone. Also, with May being Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, sometimes stigma in our own in-group can have its own it has its own I'm going to say its own flavor and own significance, and the intersectionality can be hard to navigate. But I'm here because at NAMI across the state and also nationwide, we understand you, we see you, and all of our programs are open to everyone, and you will find the hope you need and the help you need, and everything is for free.
Hi, next is me, Miriam. I'm Miriam Kutikart. Professionally, I'm an associate professor of social work at Virginia Recipient. And personally, parent of 2 kids. And we, as a family, we went through really difficult situation based on family violence the last 7-8 years. So me working professionally as a social worker with challenging mental health issues, and seeing on the other side personally with me and children, especially my second one, was a really eye-opener for me last few years. And in the middle of and the family violence led to divorce and all, and it settled. In the middle of that period, my youngest child became a trans woman. So the stigma from that point, she now faced from the school system, it was out of control. And he is being end up in inpatient hospital for a few months. And it was I felt like everything is nothing is under my control that period. And I heard about NAMI through my students, my social work students. And then I'm meeting Portia, which led to really a lot of support network I have to find. And I have no family around in Richmond at that point. So it was really a great help to get to know NAMI and finding out resources and finding actually friends through. So that's sort of my background.
Thank you. And last but not least, Michelle.
Hello. So my name's Michelle, and I am on the board of advisors for the Virginia Family Network. I have 3 children. Excuse me. I have just graduated with my associates in human services and will be attending for my bachelor's in social work in the fall. I want to specialize as a counselor for childhood trauma in Southwest Virginia for children who have experienced childhood trauma, obviously. And 2 of my children have special needs. One of them has autism spectrum disorder and is blind in one eye. And then my daughter, who actually brought me to Virginia Family Network and NAMI, has been diagnosed with juvenile bipolar disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, ADHD, and a few other fun things. Part of the reason why I do a lot of the advocacy and outreach that I do is because of the support that I've received from NAMI and Virginia Family Network.
Thank you everyone for sharing, and I'm really excited to get to hear more about your families and your stories as we go through. So again, today we are here to talk about stigma, and what is stigma? So it involves negative attitude and discrimination against someone based on a distinguishing characteristics, such as a mental health condition or disability. Social stigma can also be related to other characteristics, including gender and sexuality, race, religion, culture. So stigma is when someone's able to pick out something that is different from them and then make you feel bad about being different from them. So when you're working on, or when we're talking about stigma in mental health, we're wondering if you're able to tell us of a time when you felt stigma against your child because of their mental health, or against you as a parent because of something that your child has done or didn't do, or how they present with their mental health needs.
Well, school was always a sticky situation in our family. And I was thinking about this question, and two of the things that obviously are very, they keep coming into my mind was one instance when my daughter was in elementary school and she was running out of the cafeteria at lunchtime whenever, it was time for lunch. And we all know why. If we've ever been in a cafeteria, we know how loud a cafeteria is, right? So she would flee and she would run. And I kept getting phone calls to come get her, or, they were just freaking out. My question was, why aren't you asking her? Why aren't you asking her when she comes into, what is making her run? What is she going through? And over with the school system, how I would feel was that they just wanted to get rid of her because she was a squeaky wheel, and they just wanted me to call, and they just wanted me to get rid of her. And at some point, and I was a bad parent because obviously I was letting her run all over me. And obviously I had no control. We had her homeschooled, not homeschooled, but homebound, where a teacher would come in and teach. She wasn't a teacher, she was just like an aide or something. And at an IEP meeting, when I was trying to get her back in school, this woman said, she runs all over you, and you know it's true. And that's how I was treated in this IEP meeting. Her teacher didn't want her to come back. I had to find another classroom for her because her teacher didn't want anything to do with her. So it was all about me, my fault, and all about, my daughter's fault. So that's something, and of course I'm beating myself up thinking, what have I done wrong? And maybe they're right, because back then I didn't know what I know now. So.
I absolutely agree with what Patrice said. I was 19 when I had my first child. So when my kids first went to school, I thought, these people are professionals. So if they're saying that I'm doing something wrong as a parent, well, they've had, so many students come through their school. If they're saying I'm doing something wrong, it must be something I'm doing wrong as a parent. Who am I to question the school? So I do think that, not saying that every school is this way or that they're intentionally saying that the parents are always wrong. But I think unintentionally, the schools do play a huge part in creating some of that stigma for parents. Because oftentimes, without realizing that there may be something else that's happening with the child, the school is the first point of contact with realizing that, okay, maybe there's something else that's happening with this child. And instead of saying there's additional supports, here's these programs, here's these services, oftentimes it's, well, what are you doing as a parent? Why are you not fixing this problem with your child? Instead of saying maybe there's something more going on with your child as early as kindergarten, to offer early interventions to these problems. And that causes a lot of mistrust oftentimes in school systems between parents.
And I will follow with pretty much the same story. When my son was in preschool, it was his preschool teachers who first raised concern about his overall academic progress. And that started it, and it didn't end. Year after year, oh, we have to do all of these response to intervention things. And I was like, what is wrong? From what I'm hearing from the school, seeing at home, listening to the doc, it just was a big disconnect. So I had accepted responsibility for this young man's life, and I started to become educated and more educated and more educated. Went to nursing school, became a school nurse, worked for 2 divisions, had a whopping education after nursing school. Oh my goodness. And it's not just here, it is everywhere. So I'm here to say that my advocacy hat has not come off with the graduation of my youngest child last week. And I hope to continue working with families in my area and really across the Commonwealth.
You know, for me, for the longest time, I blamed myself. I had a wonderful pregnancy with Monica, my daughter, and I was an older mom, but I had an emergency C-section, and I blamed myself for that. And then when it came time to start preschool, when she just was panicking, like kicking, screaming, and not wanting to go, I blamed myself, and I felt that other people were judging me. And some of them were, to be very honest. When I met with the teacher she didn't think anything was wrong, but the teacher was not very warm or receptive towards me. The saving grace came was when we changed schools for elementary school, and she had a wonderful teacher, very wise and warm, and really went the extra mile to help my daughter work through social anxiety. And each year has gotten better because she was so young. When she felt this anxiety around other kids, she was not able to express it. So part of our wellness plan for her and for myself, and watching my dad with anxiety, the arts have been extremely healing. So we taught her we taught her how to play piano around the age of 5 because she needed a way to just get the emotions out. And then she started dance. And so those have been tremendously wonderful gifts for her. And around the time she was 7, she was able to tell me what happened when she was 4. She told me about the incident, told me about the response from the teachers and the other kids, and tears in her eyes. And she asked me for a counselor. And I, through my social circles, a wonderful semi-retired school counselor was seeing school-aged children in private practice, and working with this counselor has made a tremendous difference. And so now, as my daughter is almost 10, she still has some anxiety around other children and socially, but emotionally and socially together, she's become far more resilient. And as we all know, in mental health and any type of health, it's about everyday practices and resiliency. It's not like you wake up one day and you're cured. It's not like that. It's every day doing little things. But we've found for us, the social supports, and sometimes going beyond the school and really diving into our own lived experiences to see what worked for us. My experience with the school guidance was that they were not always receptive and not always responsive. So I don't know if they're overworked. They probably are, but I did not have that much of a communication back from them. And to be honest, like even for during the pandemic, with so many Asian families feeling a lot of stress for their kids and their safety, I sent a whole list of resources to the guidance department at my children's school I didn't even get a thank you back. Nothing. So I wasn't even sure if they were sharing these resources with the kids at the school. It turned out later on that they were, but just being able to just communicate back to the parent or even reaching out to NAMI or Virginia Family Network to help with some of these issues because it's available. But they didn't do that. So in the end, both of them did apologize for being, I'll be blunt, rude. And one of them was much nicer about it than the other. But that's the beauty of having more than one guidance counselor. If one's not congruent, then you can always go to the other one. But even with that being said, I feel like they're both overworked. And that's why I went outside the school.
And professionally, the social workers in schools, my experience with high schools in Richmond and Chesterfield County, high schools with close to 2,000 students, they have 2.5 counselor for 2,000 students. So it's a big gap. That's the place where parents have to be very much involved. And parents who are working and other caregiving issues, they don't have enough time, and these students have no support or minimal support. So that's just my experience with Richmond and Chesterfield County. And my personal experience with my children, it was like immediately school received a medical note about one of my child's mental illness. That week, the entire relationship with the teachers and my children broke. Entire that same week. So up until they were progressing okay at school, but there was a confusion about how these students progressing while they have a mental illness, and that was a major concern for teachers. And I remember a couple of teachers actually telling my second one, like, how do you produce this much because you are sick? Are you lying or copying somebody else's? Those kinds of conversation with students, and their entire positivity go down. And they really don't want to go to school. And because whenever they go, there's a lot of bullying from students as well as teachers. And it's sort of a mix of gender, race, and culture, along with mental illness. So that's how we experienced. My treatment plan, I tried to work with, as a social worker, I did myself, my entire group of my colleagues worked with my children, but whatever work we did, it's kind of going negatively when they enter into school. So nothing kind of working out fully in that situation. And last year, I ended up leaving Virginia. Now I live in DC. My child is in school here. And I was so amazed by the support the school providing here. And there's no problem. He's like really come to a better position right now. And that's only because of the school, because all the other resources I was providing when we were in Richmond, but it was not working. So the school systems, I see the both sides, positive support and negative support.
Thank you for sharing about your children and your families. And as you were sharing, there was some examples of what stigma looks like, how it comes across. And here's a few more ways that it can be displayed. And sometimes it's people saying things that they may or may not know that are being hurtful. Sometimes when people don't know what to say, they're like, oh, if you just try harder, it'll be easier, or just snap out of it, it's easy. Or when people are saying, oh, they're acting so crazy today, or even when it's just, oh, the weather's so crazy, like that's hurtful to people who deal with mental health every day. It bothers even my daughter when people are like, oh, I'm so OCD today, or oh, I'm so ADD today, squirrel, because she really is. And she's like, but it's not like that. And even books and TV shows make people with mental health issues out to always be a villain, or always to be the bad guy, the person that's not helpful. So those are some of the ways that stigma is displayed in everyday life. Do you guys notice any other ways where or how stigma is displayed?
I have a good example with my younger son. He has a genetic blood disorder. We discovered this when he was about 3 years old. When he was younger, the pediatrician would give him iron drops. His iron would go up. We'd go through the course, end the course, iron drop. And that went a couple of rounds. Finally, we ended up with a referral over to UVA. And the first thing UVA did was pull the iron. Do not give him iron. It's not what the problem is. His body, the way they explain it to me, his body only produces 1/2 of the adult hemoglobin. So he's chronically anemic. He fatigues quite easily. Looking at him though, he looks like an athlete. And he can do things, in spurts, but then he's got to stop and he'll build up his energy and he'll go a little more and then he'll drop. But to looking at him, people will say comments like, "Oh, just give him iron." No, can't do that.
Yeah, one way when my son, when he was first diagnosed with autism, his teacher at the time, before he knew that he was even on the spectrum, would let his class know that his behaviors were getting out of hand. She would say things like, "Oh, Aiden's autism is just acting up today. He's just having an autistic day today." And that's how he discovered that he was different from his classmates. Was he came home and said, "Mom, what's autism? What does it mean to have autistic days?" And so we had to have that discussion with him, and he was 5. And that's how he learned that he was different from his classmates. And it wasn't that it was a secret. It was just, we didn't see where it was something that really needed to be discussed. He wasn't different. It was just a characteristic of his personality. And I don't think necessarily that the teacher was trying to say anything to hurt my son, but that was just her trying to explain to his kindergarten class that Aiden was having a rough day. And I don't think she really knew that that might have hurt his feelings at the time.
So then when we look at society as a whole, do you notice that there's differences when people react to children who have mental health needs as opposed to adults who have mental health needs? And does stigma look different if you're a child versus when you're an adult?
For my son, having multiple invisible disabilities, and with the case of his blood disorder, it appears to others that he's having a mental health issue. Yes, he has mental health issues, but for this particular one, it appears, even though it's a medical condition. Unfortunately, I don't know a whole lot of other folks that I've been able to connect that has a similar condition to be able to learn more about it. So I am doing more research.
I feel like, from my experience, when my daughter was a child, it was behaviors. She's acting out. I had, including my family, I had all kinds of input of how to discipline and, what I needed to do to whip her in shape and things like that. As she got older, I feel like even she still has a mental health diagnosis, several. But as she gets older, I feel like society looks at her like, so what? Like, you still should be doing all of this. Why can't you hold down a job? Why can't you go to school full time? I feel like as they grow up and get older and older, it's like it's supposed to magically disappear and everything should be okay if she just tries hard enough, you know? So that's a hard question because I feel like as a child and an adult still kind of has its own set of complicated things. And when you were talking about stigma before, I was thinking, you know, anytime anybody looks at me or my daughter or says something or that look or anything that makes me or her feel less than, like something is our fault, that something's on us. I mean, that's stigma. You know what I mean? If I was in a wheelchair or, you know, or if I had, you know, I was blind or visually impaired or something like that, I feel like we would have, or if my daughter was, we would have more sympathy, more understanding than if she's hopping 3 times every 5 steps. You know what I mean? And that's how I feel. But anyway, I won't go on and on. I'll get off my soapbox.
I have to agree on a lot of levels though with what Patrice is saying, and even on different diagnoses as well. Like for my son with the autism spectrum, because there's such a better understanding with that diagnosis now with all of the research and advocacy and just information that's been gathered over, you know, even just the last 10 years, people have a better understanding of what autism looks like across the spectrum now. So like when my son is having a meltdown, people can better understand what that looks like and understand and empathize with what he's going through. But if my daughter, for instance, is having like a manic episode or even a depressive episode, it's, well, she should just snap out of it. If that's unacceptable, you know, she shouldn't be doing that. Even though she's actually a year younger than my son, it's still unacceptable for her to be doing that, even though on most days she acts older than my son. Therefore, most people expect more out of her. So they can do the same exact behavior, but it's unacceptable for her to do it because the medication that she takes is like a cure-all and fixes her most days. So when she's having a bad day, it's unacceptable. But when my son does it, it's almost more acceptable socially. So I do think that the stigma definitely plays a part in that, just because there's a label placed on it that's socially unacceptable versus acceptable.
Right. And then the last question for this part, do you see a difference on the way that kids treat other kids versus the way adults treat kids?
My
I
child
think,
was the bully recipient for years, especially in elementary, until we went to a private day placement. He was bullied every day.
yeah. And sometimes we don't even know what's going on. Like if we're not there to observe, or if the teachers aren't observing for whatever reason, we don't really know. So we have to, I found that trying to keep the line of communication between myself and my children as open as possible is really important. And yeah.
And I'm so thankful that, you know, my son is verbal. On some days he's more verbal than I'd like. But he is able to tell me, you know, having helped the ones whose children or adults too that are nonverbal or less verbal.
You know, Portia, I just wanted just to make a comment on what you said. You're so fortunate that you have that communication with your child. I have a phenomenal communication relationship with my daughter. Just to clarify, stuff can still happen, right?
Oh, yes.
And my daughter is telling me now at age 26 some experiences that she had in junior high that had I known, it'd have been on. I mean, I would have done, you know what I mean? And so, and I always have her back, and she always knows I have her back. And we have a great communication. That's why it's so important as parents that we remember, no matter how wonderful relationship we have, we still need to talk. We still need to, ask questions. We still need to check in and see how they're doing. I mean, I know a lot of parents that I talk to, and I hear certain things, and I'm like, is your child hurting themselves? Does your child want to kill themselves? Things like that. And they're like, oh, I don't know. I hope not. I'm like, well, you might want to ask. It's just like you ask those hard questions until it's as easy as asking, what's the weather outside? You want to have that kind of relationship. Don't bank on, oh, they'll come to me, because they may not. So it's really important.
Well, I think sometimes too, when it happens when they're very young, they don't always have the words, these big feelings, but not enough vocabulary. So that's where I found music was really important, and dance. And every child, every family is different, but it's just trying to find that way. But you're right, that they might not feel comfortable telling us things immediately. But if they're able to, like for my daughter, I mean, it's fewer years, but between 4 and 7, there was some breakthrough where she felt ready to tell me and to ask for a counselor. And I thought that was huge in terms of strength and courage. Something else I've noticed is that we model behavior every day. So when they see us advocating for self and others, or being very honest when we need help and to ask for that help, and how we regulate our own emotions, and how we also help our children and others in our lives co-regulate their emotions. But I have found this wonderful metaphor that someone shared recently. It's like you're the home base. Like so if you're playing hide and go seek, there's always that special tree where you reach that tree and you're safe. This person said you have to be like that tree for your child, and whatever that takes, try to be that home-based tree. And I think the other part of it is that even though I've received, judgmental looks, or in some cases been ostracized by parents, not all, because I've made a lot of wonderful parent friends, but I know that feeling of being kind of rejected. So that makes me on the other side a lot more compassionate and open and welcoming of other people. Because I think when we felt that ourselves, it's in its own way a gift, because we know to be more aware and to not do that to somebody else. And when our children see us do that, it's tremendous.
So in our comment section, someone had put, start the conversations. The more frequently you do it, the easier it becomes. So it's a lot of just talk, and not necessarily that they have to talk back every time, or they don't always have to have an answer every time, but just have conversations, just work it into everyday conversation. The older, especially my girls they come, they want to help cook, they want to do stuff, and that's where we get to talk. And the older they get, we get to talk more of almost like being friends, instead of this hierarchy of I'm the mom and they're the kids. But it's really, there's these conversations that we have where we're talking like friends, and I get a lot more from them that way than I would of starting a conversation where I want answers. So the consequences of stigma, and there's so many, and I'm sure this isn't all of them, but it's very serious and devastating for some. Stigma comes with the lack of understanding from others. Usually why they're saying some of the things that they say is they just don't understand what we or our kids are going through anyway. And it's fueled by this fear or this anger or this you're different and I have to let you know you're different feeling. So listed are some of the consequences that happens when people face stigma all the time. But what's could be very hurtful to me may not be hurtful to someone else, or what's extremely hurtful to them, I'm able to roll with and just move on. So you can never really gauge of why aren't you more upset about this or that? Or why are you so upset? Like, all they said was they felt crazy today. Why does that make you so upset? Because people have said it to me since I was little. So I was wondering, has your family or someone you know ever had to work through some consequences of feeling stigmatized?
When my son was in preschool, an example, he let me know that some of the kids in his class, and we're talking 3 and 4 year olds, were not very nice. And we are a blended, well, rainbow family. And it is quite obvious that my coloring is lighter than my son's coloring. He is biracial. I am biracial. I have Asian blood from my dad. But to look at me, I favor more my mom's European side. So I went in, I approached the teacher at the school, and I said, can I have 15, 20 minutes to come in and help the class understand our family? And I started that by having everybody put up the palms of their hands. And as you look around, usually the palms of the hands, no matter what background you have come from, the palms are usually the lightest on everybody. So that was helpful for that developmental age, to help them understand that we are more alike than we are different.
You know, growing up with my dad who suffered with anxiety and depression, and watching him have to navigate stigma and then feeling stigmatized by him, or feeling stigmatized as his daughter, it gave me a lot of resilience and strength. So often with my kids, I'll say, Mama is very strong. Doesn't mean I'm mean, doesn't mean I'm rude. It just means I'm very strong. And most of the women in my family are strong like that. So often just sharing our strength with them makes them feel a lot more safe. And then if someone treats me badly or looks at me in a way that is not very kind, it doesn't happen often, but when it does, I just ignore it. I don't have time. And then when my kids say, well, how do you just ignore it? It's like, well, I've got other things to focus on. And there are so many other really great people. I don't have time to waste. And this is part of trying to regulate emotions and to really make a very conscious, deliberate choice about what to focus on. I'm not always good at it, but my baseline is strong thanks to my dad and to all the women who came before me.
So here's some tips to help combat stigma. So first, remember that you're not alone. 1 in 4 Americans have some kind of mental illness that they are living with. Find support, such as NAMI Virginia, Virginia Family Network. Even for our youth and young adult, there's Youth Move Virginia, and they are able to find people in similar age range, and then they don't feel alone either. And that really can help much more than people think.
Nicole, I would add to that, it's very important to find your NAMI affiliate. NAMI's all over. So it's really important because your affiliate will know what resources are in your community.
Right.
And support groups and things like that, for sure.
Yeah.
And since we're on Facebook, so as much as we want everyone in Virginia to hear these things, if we get out of Virginia, I think every state has a NAMI. And sometimes if you're right on the border of one state and another, you can go to your closest NAMI even if you're not technically in that state. I haven't seen an affiliate that isn't welcoming or just like, no, we only take this set of people. They're like, yeah, come on. The more the merrier, because I know a little and you know a little, and together we know a whole bunch and we can help each other. So yeah, definitely find support. And if you don't know who your NAMI affiliate is, if you go to the NAMI Virginia website, there is a place in there to find your NAMI affiliate. If you have a hard time connecting with your NAMI affiliate, you can just let me know and then we can kind of troubleshoot from there what's going on, or you can just be part of the big whole state with us. So speaking of supports, and I know you guys said a little bit about it when you were introducing yourselves, but where else have you been able to find support?
We're all afraid to talk over one another, so we're all just staying muted. We're being respectful.
Actually, the ARC of Virginia has been helpful for us. As our local CSB is helpful, and Reach has been awesome to work with.
I grew up with a lot of dance and music, so support your local dance studios, your music teachers, performing arts, culinary, cooking arts, and all the arts, because I think so often when we have these dialogues around mental health or even mental illness, I mean, there's the same thing, but the word makes a difference. So language can divide us even without us even meaning to. So trying to find that place of connection that's even beyond words. I feel like the arts, particularly during this pandemic, arts organizations have been more than generous. How many have streamed their things for free? Museums, orchestras, symphonies, ballet companies, dance companies, they've done this for free because they know that we need this type of healing and wellness. But that's been a large part of our wellness action plan in my household. And you'll find people that just love to connect. And also because I'm from an ethnic group, actually more than one ethnic group, sometimes the in-group community can be supportive. Other times it can be restrictive, but find what works. Faith communities are also important. I'm not endorsing one over the other, but I do think that sense of connection and spirituality and purpose can also be a part of mental wellness.
For us, it was sports. My son did karate for a number of years, and I'll put out a shameless plug for the Special Olympics. They've been a great bunch of folks to work with over the years.
Surprisingly, just typing into Facebook, like where you're located and then support groups, oftentimes you'll find like even specialized support groups for a number of like specific, I'm trying to think of the word, I don't want to say disabilities, but like special needs support groups and things. I have friends who think that they have a child that has like a rare genetic disorder, and then they type in a support group for that genetic disorder, and then they find a support group in their area, and then they find friends who have children around the same age that have the same genetic disorder, and then they find a support group for their child who have now friends who have the same rare genetic disorder. So then now they have friends and a support group within their own community that can help support them through that. So even just, Facebook friends that you can just get on and vent with and kind of share the same frustrations that other friends that you can see every single day might not share that same frustrations that other people could.
I just want to say how lucky we all are listening to all these supports that you all mentioned. Like I said, back when I was going through this, when my daughter was little, I knew of none of this. Mm-hmm. And I was alienated, and I was in my house, and it was just a living hell. And I had nothing. And family didn't know how to help me. And usually when people don't know what to do, they run. And I was all on my own. And I remember one time my husband came home from work because he traveled all the time. And I had my suitcase by the front door. And he kind of panicked a minute. He's like, "What's up? Like, what's happening?" And I'm like, "Tag, you're it. I need to get out of here. You deal with it. Don't call me unless somebody's in the hospital or something, but I gotta go." I had nothing. And the supports that are out there now, and when I can talk to families now and tell them about all these resources, all these awesome resources about NAMI and support groups and everything, and what I would have given back then to have hope and for somebody to give me hope. I mean, it's just words can't express. So, I mean, Nicole, thank you, like Virginia Family Network and all these resources. I mean, virtual this year's been kind of sucky with COVID and everything, but that there's still connection, there's still virtual connection. And that is so important. You know, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. I told you you needed to put a 10-second delay on me.
And actually, I should be thanking you. My first class with NAMI was basics, and you were the one who was teaching it. And I came out of that with tons of resources and feeling like I wasn't alone, which was great. But then kind of this new thought of, I want to do this kind of stuff. I don't want anyone to feel like they're doing this alone. And so you were kind of my first connection of, I can do this kind of stuff too.
And how, for all of us and everybody listening, how awesome is that the very first time somebody says something and you're like, "Oh my gosh, they know, they get it." It's just like, it's an instant, like, "Oh my heart," you know, because I mean, we live in our own little bubble, right? So when you reach out and support groups or whatever, and you meet, it's like, my people, you know, they get me, they don't judge me, you know, I mean, it's just, it's a wonderful feeling.
So, Nicole, funny story. First training I ever went to was also with Patrice and you, Nicole, at that NAMI basics training, I believe. And I had actually not left my house in 18 months other than for doctor's appointments and therapy appointments for my kids. So I go in and I'm like, "I'm the worst mom ever. Who am I to do this? Oh my God, I'm such a horrible parent. They're all going to judge me." And I walked out and like, "Yeah, I'm awesome. And we've all got this. And I'm going to be a warrior mom. And I'm going to take that school by charge. And no one's going to stop me." And so, yeah, it can happen. So look at all of us now.
I also tell people a lot about the connection that you and I have. Like, I have this friend, Michelle, and she doesn't live near me, but I know I can reach out to her, be like, "I don't like my kid today." And she's not going to be like, "Oh, you don't like your kid," or look at me like I have 6 heads. She's going to
I
be
don't like mine
"No,
either
kids
today."
are tough." And, you know, we'll talk through it and she'll be like, "Oh, so we like our kids again?" I'm like, "Yeah, they're all right." She's like, "Yeah, they're good." I'm like, just the friends you meet, the connection you have, and they can help you kind of de-stress.
Yep. It's okay not to like our kids some days. We just have to love them every single day because we're what they got. So
then a lot of what we're covering now is about speaking out and how we've been able to do that and how we're able to educate other people and how Virginia Family Network is able to kind of help spark that fire where you're like, no one else should feel the way I feel, and how can I do this too? And I'm sure there's tons of other organizations that can help you do this and you can be part of too. It's just a lot of my knowledge is here. So what was the moment where you first felt you were able to share your story? Because if you take basics, that's a whole part of it, is we're telling our stories.
For
And I
me, it
think
was the Advanced Parent Leadership Conference that I went to in Salem more than a few years ago, I think now. So I didn't come up through basics. I might have to check that out.
Mhm. Mine is with my students. I see every year I come with a group of students who have to face this harsh realities due to their mental health challenges. And response to that, I share my stories. Although, it's even though I'm a professor, it's still mental health issue is a common theme in every group. And we look at any group in the world, what common theme linking us together is mental health challenges. And considering that, how often we seek out services and how often we receive services, and how often we protest for not receiving services. So those are I make it as a dialogue in the classroom, and which helps me to get for sort of comfort from my own students. And another tip I want to share is in my own cases, we had a group of intimate families and friends who used to call our family 3 times a day. They took really take a turn to call us every 3 times a day. These are our people who live in out of country. But that kind of intense support, including spirituality, that helped us a lot.
So then lastly, here is a list of resources, and it is nowhere near how many is really out there. So it's just kind of a short list to get you started. Even if you just go to the NAMI Virginia page, it has a bigger list of great resources. Another really great one on here is the Text NAMI. Sometimes actually talking to someone causes just as much anxiety as wanting to reach out for help to begin with, but texting for some is just so much easier. So even if you just want to text and have some advice or some resources, there's even a text number. The other thing that NAMI has done for May is they did a 4-part audio event on stigma, and they talked to different families and caregivers, and it's really a great audio event to listen to and find some more empowering stories and resources. So I was wondering if you guys had any other resources that I didn't get onto this list.
I think there are always more, and I think we're in that virtual world, or we can just Google it. You know what I mean? And we all know this, but I think the most important thing is to reach out to someone.
Mhm.
You know, we're all going through stuff right now over and above. Some people who have not even had any mental health challenges or conditions or anything now do. And some of those that have been dealing with mental health conditions, it's exacerbated. I would just encourage everyone, no matter who you reach out to somebody. There are so many supports out here. Please just reach out. And if you haven't heard from a friend in a while, you get that little tap on your shoulder, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I haven't heard from such and such. Reach out. Even if it's a text, reach out.
And we're always available at NAMI Virginia and all of the affiliates. So I'm going to second what Patrice has just said. Do reach out to us. We see you, we understand you, and we are here for you. So please do. I mean, no matter how small the concern might feel like to you, we'd rather hear from you than not. And we have lived experience, so we can really understand.
Absolutely. So the NAMI Virginia helpline number is here. And also, if you rather email us, you can do that also. I'm also going to put my email address in the comment section. So if you want to reach out to me, or if you just want a copy of the slides for information, or you want the resource list itself, just let me know. So before we part, does anyone have any final thoughts? I do have one more question to ask that I don't think is something that I shared with you before because I kept coming up with stuff. So, have you noticed any positive changes in stigma and mental health, especially concerning children?
Great question, Nicole. We've had a bit of a breakthrough in the last 6 weeks with my younger son. We've been participating in Virginia Tech's CARES Lab research study. And in about halfway through this, he started sending me lyrics to songs he's been listening to, albeit not the songs I would pick to listen to myself, but these are what he's been listening to, and they're speaking to him. So he sent me these lyrics over Messenger. And after reading through them, I'm thinking, all right, how am I going to respond to this? And what we ended up doing is I would find something positive. Sometimes it's a little easier than other times, but I would find something positive, and then I would write a poem and send it back to him. And we've done that almost every night for the last 6 weeks. And some days he'll send me 2. I'm thinking, what have I started? But that's a positive, and I told him, I said, if this is what it takes to help you, I will do it. Drop everything and do it every day.
Something positive, as hard as it is to share our own lived experiences as publicly as we all do on this panel, I've had parents who I don't know very well just stop me and ask me questions about mental health. And so it's just been great to be able to share not only help and information, but just to give hope. Those, small 10 to 20-minute conversations can really change a person's perspective, and it can make an impact. So I feel like, I know it's difficult, or at least I'll speak for myself, it was difficult to start sharing lived experiences at the beginning, but now I see the impact it has. And hearing from people or getting questions and being able to be one of the helpers is tremendous. So I feel like that is a positive. And I know we've all felt that. So en masse, it's a positive, right? And I need to step off. I apologize. I have another meeting starting soon. But thank you all so much. It's great to see you. And thank you, Nicole.
Thank you, Portia.
Yeah. As difficult as COVID, I think, was for a lot of people, I think in a way it was almost helpful for a lot of families to better understand mental health, especially with their children, because they got to see some of it firsthand. It kind of made it more real for some families to better understand that their children could experience mental health symptoms, even if it's not a diagnosable mental health condition. When you're with your children and they are experiencing some of the characteristics of, depression, and what some parents might say is just, oh, it's just cabin fever. They're stuck in their house all the time and they're getting bored and they can't go and see their friends. When you start describing what characteristics of depression are, they can start saying, oh, okay, so maybe my child might experience some symptoms of depression. It kind of helps them to better understand what you mean when you say that your child experiences depression, but on a much larger, much more serious scale, I guess. So it kind of helps them to kind of connect some of those dots. So while COVID sucked for everyone, when it was on the complete lockdown for most localities, it did help to kind of help families to better understand what many of us have experienced for years. So there was that on a plus note.
So I want to thank everyone for joining us on Facebook today. I also want to give a huge thank you to all the ladies here who have shared about their families and themselves about a topic that can be really hitting close to home. So again, thank you for coming to help me share and help the world learn a little bit more about what stigma is and how it affects us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.